Hey everyone, this is Amadeus, the developer behind Kneeboard.live, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the private beta that will be going live any moment now after I'm done with this video. I want to talk a few kind of goals of this, is both to show off how the product works, what to expect, also the intentions of the private beta program, and then also high level, what is this product and what are we trying to do with it. So from a high level, the intention of Kneeboard.live is think of it like a sort of community-run or community-made repository of checklists for various flight sims. What does that mean? That means that people can create accounts. I'll talk about the future public goals, that anyone can come, create an account, and create checklists for any aircraft in any game that they would like, and then they can share that checklist with their friends or the community at large. There's a little bit of like a social clout feature in the sense that like you will have a profile page for yourself that you can kind of show off everything that you've created. And so that's the long-term goal. For the private beta, of course, everything that you will be able to do with the site will require an account that has an approved email, and you'll have to be part of the beta program for that. If you're watching this video, it's most likely that you are already in the beta program, so cool. If not, if you shared this video, awesome, and you're interested, head on over to our Discord. It is discord.gg/kneeboard. You can see the spelling up here. You can also just visit kneeboard.live and hit the Discord link there. And you can request access to the beta there. And honestly, unless something goes crazy in this thing, like there's thousands and thousands of people, you'll probably get access right away. So with all that said, some context, I feel like the product is in a place where it's ready for people to start testing it, using it, providing feedback, finding bugs. In fact, I know there's a lot of bugs already. Just trying to make this video, this is like my 4th or 5th take now. I have experienced some bugs throughout the process of this video. So I know they're there. I need you all to help me find them, and then also, give me feedback on the things that are valuable and what, help shape the product direction for this, because I have some ideas in my head, but also, who cares what my ideas are. I think I need, it'll be good to the sim community at large to sort of provide feedback for this. So there will be bugs. I'm looking for feedback. Let's get into it. So if you're in the beta program, basically you'll just want to head on over to the register link, register page, and we'll basically need 3 things from you: a unique username, an email that has to be the one that you registered for the private beta with, and then obviously a password. All this stuff should be pretty self-explanatory. The main reason the username needs to be unique is because that will also be your sort of URL for your profile page when you create an account. So in this case, I'm just going to make a demo account right now. As you can obviously see, Amadeus is taken. So we're just going to take Amadeus 2. I'm going to go ahead and use a test email account for this, and then I am going to, create a password. Go ahead and register that. You'll get an email to complete your registration. I'm just going to copy that URL that you get in that email and just paste it directly in here. Whoops, that was the text that said confirm your email. What I actually needed was the link address. There you go. And then we'll go ahead and hit that URL, and we will now be logged in. So first things first, you'll be landed on your checklist dashboard. We'll go into more of this in a second here, but just a quick context thing. If you jump over to settings, you can do your sort of normal account stuff. You can change your username if you want. You can give yourself a display name, because usernames need to be like sort of URL safe. There's a lot of limits on the characters and stuff that you can use there. So if you want to say something a little bit more descriptive with spaces or whatnot, you could do that in the display name. You can also upload an avatar, which I'm not going to do right now, but you know the rest. So let's go back to the checklist page. This is kind of where you'll land here first. And so I want to talk a little bit about like what that process looks like for creating and editing a checklist. So the first thing you're going to want to do is select an aircraft. I'm just going to go ahead and use the P-51 Mustang for this for now. Bear in mind, this is just DCS aircraft. If there are other aircraft and other flight sims that you would like added, please let me know. I'm happy to add more. I'm just done DCS because I feel like that's sort of been the community that I've sort of been the part of the most, and so relevancy. But I am definitely open to, Microsoft Flight Sim or whatever, or X-Plane or whatever, if people have those sorts of desires. No problem there. Okay, so the next thing you're going to want to do is give your checklist a name. This would be like, I give you some startup landing, whatever. I'm just going to call this fake checklist because I want to delete it after this demo. And then we have a description here. This is where you might want to provide some more context, like, is this going to be a checklist that's going to be like NATOPS procedures or something, or is it just going to be like the thing that you use when you jump into Groundling Sidewinder and just want to take off real quick? Anyways, this helps, like, especially when we get to the directory portion of this video, you'll see that it has much more sort of value in helping people like find the checklists that they want. But at the end of the day, I will be depending on a lot of you to create checklists to populate this. So hoping that that's something that y'all will help me with. So anyways, fake checklist, do not use this. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and create this checklist, which will now take me to the checklist editor. So go over a couple things here before we actually start editing it fully. There's a little edit button here if you want to go back and edit your sort of existing stuff, maybe change the plane, change the name, maybe a misspelling in it. But you can also add a cover image, which I think is pretty important. So I'm going to just go ahead and add a existing cover image that I already had, and then save for that. So what is a cover image? It's sort of the first thing people will see when they open your checklists. So whenever you're editing a checklist, I highly recommend you just open the preview and you have this open with you as you build a checklist. And the reason is because it sort of gives you a preview of how it's going to look. This editor does not look like that. It's obviously going to be more, with a lot of more controls and tools to like, manage it. But as you can see, here's your nice cover image shown beautifully there. And again, this is actually a fully interactive checklist. Because it's not published yet, only you can view it. And that's sort of an important distinction, right? Because it takes time to make these things. You don't want to just like have them go live for everyone the moment they're created and not be useful. So you kind of have this interim period where before you publish a checklist where you can get it all cleaned up, refined, however you want it, and then you can publish it. Bear in mind that once published, you can't unpublish it. You could delete it, but you can't unpublish, and that's sort of intentional for now because I don't want people to just like publish and unpublish and cause the users of those checklists havoc. Okay, so this is fully interactive, as I said. You'll see a lot of the UI. We'll talk about this a little bit more here in a second. But first things first, let's go ahead and start adding items to it. So when it comes to a checklist, you can basically add, I'll call them items, a checklist item. You can basically add 3 types of items: a step, a section, or a note. You might be asking what those are. I have a little help thing here. If you open this up and then you change whatever this is, you will see that it will sort of describe what those are. Given that this is a video, I don't want to go too deep into it. I'll just say this. A step is a thing that you use to actually check off interactively. You tap it and it has like a checked off state, or you tap it again to uncheck it. Section is sort of a way to like sectionally contain a bunch of steps. And then note is sort of like a section, but you can't check it off. And it's more for like, it doesn't have like a label and a value. It just more is for like long form content if you wanted to like, describe something a little bit or whatever. It's not necessarily something that you check off. It's more like a note as you're checking things off. So to start with though, we're going to add a section. So let's say section 1. Now in this case, because I haven't opened up the checklist yet, or haven't started to the first page yet, you won't see anything happen. But if we go ahead and go to the first page, just a quick highlight of controls that you have. It differs whether you're on desktop or whether you're on a mobile device like a touch screen, like a tablet or a phone. If you're on a computer, you kind of use, for now, you kind of just use the mouse wheel, click it up or down to cycle. I will probably iterate on this, but for now, there's also to remove the first page. You can kind of click that away. And then you can see here, there's the wonderful section that we created, which also lives here as well. So now that we have added a section, it does auto sort of set you on steps, because typically you don't want to add sections right off the bat, or you don't want to add multiple sections. So we're going to go ahead and add a step. So we'll say step 1. Steps are basically comprised of a label and a value. Technically the value is optional. So you could do a step that doesn't have a label if you want, but you should have at least always a label, otherwise it'll look a little off. So you say do something, I don't know, add that, and as you can see, as I'm adding it, it's real-time updating to the changes, and that's sort of the power of like sort of this editor preview flow. And then it's step 2, something else, step 3, and then step 4, profit. So now that I have a few steps here, again, as we go back to, this is a fully interactive checklist. before you've published it personally, you can go ahead and use it and test it, work with it on your own as you see fit. You just don't have to worry about anyone else seeing it. So there's a few other things now that we have some content here. You can see here's the steps that we've created. You'll notice that as I'm highlighting over them, you see these little arrows. You can use these to kind of create sub-steps. So if I click that here, you can then see that these now become sub-steps. It doesn't really mean anything other than they're just sort of grouped under sort of this bigger step. They still act like normal steps. You can check them on and you can check them off if you want to. You can also, if you notice a spelling error or something, you can edit a step, and you can see there that you can edit the data. You can also cancel out of it if you don't want it. You can also reorganize steps by just like dragging them around. If you drag a step with a bunch of sub-steps, it will all drag together. So you can move them all together, so that might be useful. You can drag a step into another step and it will become a sub-step. If you drag it out, it will leave and not become a step anymore. So you have some controls there. You can even move sections down if you want to. It doesn't really matter. Sort of the world is your oyster. Play around, maybe find things that are broken. You can even delete something if you don't care about it, if you want to as well. So let's go ahead. Another thing I want to talk about too, which you've probably seen something, is this concept of metadata. So like on its own, there's not a whole lot that you can, you are limited on content in a lot of these areas, and sometimes you want to add more information to a step. This I think also helps to make these checklists a lot more accessible for people, because you take someone, you might have something that tells you to do something, but it's like, where's that control in the aircraft or whatever, right? And this is kind of where, there's this ability to upload sort of some additional data. So just for the sake of example, I'm just going to reuse my cover photo for this. And then you can also add a bunch of content. So you might want to explain the control more, whatever it is. You might want to give some context about why you might want to do X, Y, or Z. And when you create that, when you save it, so a couple things. One is you'll notice there's now this metadata section, which you can kind of click to show the metadata. It says there's an asset. You could click it here. I think there's a bug right now where I can't get rid of this modal. But anyways, you can see here. And then over here in the actual step, you see this little dot. And this little dot sort of represents the fact that there is this extra information. So it shows the image and then also has the text. So if you want to have supporting, if you're on computer, a right click would expose it. You could also just click that little dot if you want to as well. And if you're on like a touch screen device, you just do a long press and it'll bring up that data. Again, none of this stuff has tutorials yet, but I do plan to in the future eventually of doing that. And then I guess the final thing that I haven't really touched on yet is a note. I'm just going to go ahead. This is an example note. It supports more long form content. So there, right? And as you can see, it looks a little different. You can't check it off if you want it, if you can't, or whatever. But again, you can move it. It can become a sub-step for something. It doesn't really matter. It just exists. Anyways, so there it is. So that's our checklist. Another thing that you can note, so if you check a bunch of stuff off, if you go back to this page, you hit this little button here, it'll undo all the check marks if you want to restart. Also refreshing the page will also do that for you. And then as I said earlier, well, anyways, let's give that for now. Let's talk about the published state. So now that I have this checklist in a state that I'm ready to publish it, you just go ahead and hit publish. Again, it will warn you can only be done once. You can't undo it. Once it does that, it will take you to the directory page, which is now, as you see over here, it's now this new section. So the directory page is where you can come and discover other people's checklists. By default, it will show you basically the recently created checklists. There are filters though. There's the ability to filter and search as well. So if you say, oh, I just want to see stuff for the F-14, you can select that, and then you see the checklist available. This is a checklist that I made that I'm also going to kind of use as sort of a piece for all of you to say these are what's possible. You can click this info that I talked about earlier. This is the description. This is sort of my personal F-14 checklist. It's not super, accurate, hardcore, or whatever, but it's enough to kind of get you started. And then if you want to jump into that, you just click it, and here we are. And this is sort of like the normal flow. So again, my nice big cover photo. I could go back to the checklist directory if I want to, but let's go back into it again. And then as you can see, there's a lot of stuff in here. I have populated a lot of these different things with imagery and assets. So if you're trying to learn the Tomcat, this is a great way to sort of get started with really easily and dynamically. Another thing, again, this thing is designed for all sorts of screen sizes and stuff like that. So if you have a really wide screen, we'll just make things columns. If it's really narrow, we'll just paginate more. There's also stuff if you get through a page and you check everything off, it'll auto advance you to the next page. Stuff like that. Remember, you can go back, you can reload it, and then also if you're kind of in the navigation of it all, you can go back to the checklist directory. Yeah, and then finally the only thing, let's go back to the checklist, and then the thing that you'll see here is in this page. If I just go ahead and create another demo checklist, and then go back to my checklist, you'll see it's categorized by unpublished and published. So the two things, one is this little arrow here will actually take you to the checklist if you want to use it, and then this will just take you to the edit form if you want to edit this way. Now finally, because I wanted to delete this checklist, let's go through that final piece. Edit, delete. Yes, you can't undo this, so please be careful. With great control comes great responsibility, something, something, something. There it is, and that's basically how you create and edit checklists. I think that's everything I wanted to go. Let me just double check my notes. Again, if stuff like, actually you're just seeing a bug right here, I delete this checklist, that still shows up. This is just in your local cache. This is something I'm still working on. If you just hit the refresh page, you won't see it anymore. Normal people won't really see it anymore. But again, there will be bugs. It's especially useful if you can show me how to reproduce those bugs. But yeah, that's basically it. And yeah, I think this is sort of the product as it stands. The rest of the stuff should be hopefully self-explanatory. I think my only ask of all of you is let's get more checklists into this page that aren't just these like sort of boring 3 that I've created. I would love to see, what you guys come up with and what you guys can flesh out. So anyways, thank you again. If you have any questions or if you want to follow along on development, the Discord, I will have that linked below in the description, but that will be the place to be. It's also, if you want to become part of the private beta, that is the place to make that happen and just sort of reach out to me, etc. Yeah, so that is Kneeboard.live. I hope you like what you've seen, and if you're interested in building stuff or creating checklists for this, please join the beta and make stuff happen, because I think this will be really cool. And I would, honestly, I built this selfishly for myself. I jump around to a lot of different modules, and sometimes if I haven't used a module in a while, it can be so hard to remember what to do. And looking through YouTube videos and tutorial videos and stuff is just never the play. So hoping to solve that. Also, as a future thing, I just want to add, because these are all websites, when the F4 Phantom does come out, I will focus very hard on trying to make these sort of checklists work in-game in DCS itself. Shouldn't be too hard because they allow you to render websites, and this is just a website. But for now, you are sort of limited to using a tablet or a mobile phone or another second screen to kind of utilize these in game. But the dream obviously would be in game, and hopefully Ego Dynamics ships that as a general feature for DCS, because I would take heavy advantage of that for this product. Anyways, that's it. That's all for now. Yeah, sorry, hopefully this video wasn't too long. It's already looks like it's almost approaching 20 minutes. So thank you, and hopefully you enjoy what you saw. All right.